Thank you for taking time to look at this video. This diagram is intended to explain or present in a diagrammatic way the principles of Safety 2. The very nature of Safety 2 and the complexity of how safety is achieved, measured and implemented in healthcare cannot be fully represented by a simple diagram, however. But this can help people to understand the concepts that Safety 2 is based on. So this first slide represents what happens in contemporary healthcare in regards to safety and work design and practice. The concept of work as imagined is how we believe things happen in the real world, how our policies and procedures are designed, and how we believe they are then enacted in real world practice. Our systems are designed around the notion that if people follow the policies and procedures as presented, then outcomes will be safe and harm will be minimised. We refer to this as a Safety 1 approach. In reality, this is an artificial way to be presented here, and it's a minimalist view of what in real life is a complex system of practice and systems design. But the diagram can help people grasp the notion of how contemporary healthcare is designed and delivered. This then defines how we measure practice, the quality, the safety, and the efficiency of care delivery within the healthcare system. That knowledge then allows us to identify where there are gaps, where risk exists, and where our systems and practices are strong, and where there needs to be improvement. Each of these columns represents a different element of that practice or systems design. The first one on the left of the screen focuses on how we consider safety in contemporary practice. The primary driving force is to minimise harm. The next column considers how humans work within the system, what they do, why they do things the way they do in their daily work. People tend to be viewed as a potential source of error and harm when considering harm causation and incident review. The next one focuses on the objectives of our work and the design and delivery of the systems in the healthcare setting. The intent is to minimise errors and therefore limit harm occurrence. Then there is a column that considers safety learning. How do we learn about safety in the current system to make changes and continually improve the system's design and associated outcomes? Currently, learning is predominantly influenced and informed by learning from incidents and errors and is retrospectively focused. The last is safety perspectives, where the focus tends to be retrospective in nature, learning about what went wrong, how and why, then using that knowledge to strengthen practices and guidance such as policies and procedures to prevent future occurrence. The diagram is not intended to cover every element of practice and systems design, but is used as an example to talk about and identify these concepts. In Work as Imagined, or a Safety 1 approach, there is a focus on prevention of harm, where we see humans as potentially part of the source of error and risk. If people working in the system are not working in ways that we imagine, or in the way they are directed to by policies, etc., that can be a source of risk. Therefore, the objective becomes to try and minimise errors or harm, which is exactly what we need to do and is essential to a system built on keeping people safe. But as I will suggest later on, there is more opportunities to learn about improving safety in the healthcare system from the way we work and the systems we have designed. The way we currently view safety within healthcare systems is missing key parts of how care is planned, directed, prescribed, measured, evaluated, and actually occurs. And importantly, how each of these elements articulates and/or influences each other. Safety 2 starts to go beyond our current way of working and recognises that there is what we see as work as imagined, but work as done can vary significantly sometimes. Some elements of practice need to be precise and align very closely with policies, etc., such as the administration of blood products. But other elements of practice can and do benefit from adaptations. Safety 2 recognises that actually what people do in the real world, the way they adapt and respond to different scenarios and contexts, so the work is done, is what actually keeps people safe the vast majority of the time, and that those adaptations will often go outside of the work as imagined for both good and for bad reasons. The first row here represents contemporary practice and systems design, work as imagined, along the bottom row, which forms the basis of and has influenced the way our systems are designed and how practice is guided. The second row above, work as done, is representation of the realities of everyday work, how that actually occurs in real life, and how it may or may not vary compared to work as imagined. Neither work as imagined or work as done are correct or wrong. They are both important in terms of how care is delivered, but also importantly sources of additional safety learning available to us to strengthen the safety of people in the healthcare system. Safety 2 offers additional learning that is not intended to replace the way we practice now, but build on existing practices. The primary safety focus becomes also understanding how things go right, as well as how things go wrong. We start to learn from normal work, and we also learn that people in the system are often, the vast majority of the time, the factor or variables that contribute to safe outcomes and the lowering of risk. But also recognising that that is not always the case. They can also be a source of error, risk and harm. Safety 2 recognises that adaptations in practice exist, even if desirable or undesirable, and how and why they occur is important to safety learning. Ignoring those adaptations or trying to minimise them can increase other risks that we are not overtly aware of. Within a complex system such as healthcare, there are a range of unintended consequences that are present because our existing policies and procedures are poorly recognised or designed. Those unintended consequences may actually result in harm that they are intended to prevent because of an inability or failure of the work as imagined to address the challenges of everyday practice. When recognition of how work as done occurs, what drives differences between that and what is intended can help us recognise unintended consequences, gaps in the design and usefulness of work as imagined, and where risk exists, even before harm occurs. Safety 1 primarily learns from harm occurrence, although there are proactive elements of risk assessment in this system. Whereas Safety 2 uses that knowledge and then builds on by understanding and identifying where risk exists, even before it results in harm. Knowing this can allow us to design systems of work and practice that build and support individual and system resilience, that allows effective adaptations where suitable and where effective. Safety 2 is proactive. It considers, measures and nurtures variability and resilience. What's added to this final slide is detail about what Safety 2 adds to each system and practice element or column. This maintains the design of practice and systems based on Safety 1 elements along that bottom row, but augments other practices and systems design that can improve safety learning and outcomes. For each of the columns, the Safety 2 box does not replace the Safety 1 box. Instead, it builds on it to create a more powerful way of recognising risk and reducing harm. The first column, Primary Safety Focus, maintains the emphasis on preventing harm, but recognises that we can prevent harm more effectively by learning about how things both go right and how they go wrong, or learning from normal work. The second column recognises that people working in the system can be both the source of harm and also safe outcomes. After an incident, a person's actions may have been identified as the primary cause of that harm. But what may not be recognised is that that person may have completed those same actions multiple times previously, but there were other factors that prevented those actions from resulting in harm. We only start to recognise that particular risk after the harm occurs in Safety 1. But potentially, Safety 2 may have been able to recognise the potential for harm when looking at the normal work of that person or that situation and identifying the adaptations or actions in those scenarios that increase the risk of harm. So the focus becomes proactive, preventative, and is intended to stop harm occurring by recognising risk in the absence of harm and implementing resources or changes to limit that harm occurring in the first place. It also allows the system to be redesigned to emphasise and support adaptations that have kept people safe before harm occurred. If we waited for harm to occur, then those adaptations are not recognised or leveraged to strengthen safety learning. The objectives of safe work and systems become to recognise the resilience or ability to adapt where needed, both for individuals and also the system. That resilience demonstrates an ability and need to be reflective and adapt to unique scenarios and contexts not allowed for in existing policies and procedures. Safety learning, both for individuals and the system, includes both as a result of failures, but also as a result of everyday success. People start to view practice as a source that can create both success and harm, but start to consider the learning available from success rather than just after harm has occurred. A system that values safety too will consider, nurture, and measure variability and resilience as a valuable source of safety learning, rather than solely as a source of potential risk, to strengthen outcomes and keep people safe within a complex system. I hope that the diagram and the explanation here has helped you develop some insights into the principles of Safety 2. The term Safety 2 is not the best from my perspective, but the concept that it recognises and explains in our daily practice and ways of working are powerful. I suggest that you take some time to consider these complex ideas and reflect on and how they make sense in your practice, and start to illuminate some of the more nuanced elements of the systems we work within and also contribute to. I have personally found these concepts have helped me to see how the systems I work within were designed, how they developed and changed over time, and importantly where their limitations exist, and how we can create a broader opportunity for safety learning in the healthcare system and improve the safety and experience for all.